All right, well, we will officially, with that recording from Mr. Andrew, thank you, call this meeting to order of the Housing Authority. We will do a roll call of commissioners that are present. Commissioner Fountain,
Here.
Commissioner Bolte,
Here.
Commissioner Sullivan. He said, I read his lips, he said here, even though his mic was off, okay? And then I'm here, I'm here. We know Commissioner Willie will not be present, but we still have a quorum, so we will be able to proceed. Commissioners, you have copies of the September minutes that were disseminated to you for the September meeting, and at this time, I will entertain any motions related to those minutes or any revisions or suggestions that are needed. It's fairly quiet. I will entertain any motions for approval of the minutes.
Motion for approval.
Right.
Second.
We have a motion is seconded by Commissioner Fountain. Again, any corrections? Hearing none, we're going to call the question. All those in favor of approving the September minutes of the Huntsville Housing Authority Board meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Right. The minutes are approved. Thank you so much for putting those together as well. I thought they were fantastic. Jacqueline, appreciate it. I assume that you're the one that's putting together those minutes, correct?
That is correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. At this point, we will hand the floor over to, I'm sorry, we don't have any old business. And so we will hand the floor over to our Executive Director, Antonio McGinnis.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate everybody being here. Basically today, we just have some financial service items and executive director report. So I'll turn it right over to Teresa so that she can dive right into that.
Good afternoon, commissioners. The first item is to act on a resolution authorizing executive director to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Huntsville Utilities for partnership and participation in the Uplift pilot program. Mike Norman will be presenting this item.
Good afternoon, board members. This is Resolution 2021-38. The Huntsville Housing Authority seeks board approval to enter into an agreement with Huntsville Utilities to memorize a partnership to participate in the Uplift program administered by Tennessee Valley Authority. The purpose for this participation in the program is to partner with Huntsville Utilities as they have received a grant from the TVA to provide energy upgrades to property owners to include installation of new HVAC equipment. This program has a matching component, so HHA must commit funding to participate in the program. HHA has identified HVAC units in the LR Patton community that require replacement. This program will allow replacement of approximately 48 units. HHA will commit the $283,200 listed in the Memorandum of Understanding of capital funds to this program, which will be matched through cash and in-kind contributions from Huntsville Utilities and the Tennessee Valley Authority. Does anyone have any questions concerning this? This is a continuation of our participation with the TVA in this program.
This is similar to a program of a previous year or two ago. Is that correct? Something similar to this?
That's correct. It started out as a pilot program with the TVA, and they contributed funds to us, and they liked the program and the outcome so well, they made it into a permanent program at this point. Each fiscal year for the TVA, they have funds to contribute to this program, and this is a continuation for their fiscal year 2022.
And do we know, speaking of outcomes, do we know what the net outcome was to the housing authority in terms of having these new energy efficient units in compared to previous?
We don't have statistical data, but we do know it has reduced energy consumption for the residents. The residents, that data hasn't been gathered that I know of unless Huntsville Utilities has gathered it, because the residents pay their utility bill straight to Huntsville Utilities. So we do know that indoor air quality has been improved quite a bit. And with the new equipment that's being installed, it is much more energy efficient than our old equipment from 12 to 14 years ago.
So, and so clearly to your point about the new equipment, you have the other additional benefit is you have new equipment, right? So you don't have the same maintenance issues, you have the longevity issues, all those things.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And we're basically getting these at half price because they're matching funds with us. So basically we're getting two for the price of one. So that's hugely important to us. We would not have been able to accomplish replacing all of these units without this help.
Okay, so I'm not going to start off on just like digging in a whole lot. Teresa knows me on this one a little bit. Whenever I see numbers, and particularly big numbers like this, I'm always trying to look at ROI and what that means and to be able to make those justifications. And I'm not saying you got to do this for this, but things like what percentage increase of efficiency are we receiving? Things such as how much we think this is going to reduce ongoing maintenance costs in the future. Things such as, those things would just kind of help us be able to, if someone asks us, okay, you spent $283,000, that's a significant amount. What did you get from it? I would love to be able to say more than we have, more efficient units and we're saving people money. If we can just have some numbers associated with that, that would help me out tremendously. Okay. All right, I'll hush now.
Hey, Mike, thanks for the details. So 48 units at $283,000, that's looks like about 5,900 per unit. So about $6,000 per unit. So if they pay half, that's about a little less than 12,000 per unit, right? So why'd you come up with 48 units? I mean, are there others that could be upgraded? Is it just we don't have enough money to do more of them? Because 50% off is a really good deal, right?
Yes, sir. Based on their previous costs from their contractors doing the installments, it was averaging about $11,800 per apartment. So that's where that figure comes from. So based on the amount of money TVA is applying to the grant this year, if prices don't go way up, we should get about 48 units out of that grant.
So
it's based on previous costs.
So we're limited by what TVA is providing in the grant. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
How many units total do we have over there at LR Patton?
There's 110 total. We've already replaced with the program last year. We replaced 14 there in LR Patton, and hopefully we'll get 48 out of this. It just depends on how the bids come in from the contractors. It could be a couple more, it could be a couple less, just depending on how the equipment costs go. And then after this round of installs, we should have like 38 left at LR Patton. And then that's the last 38 apartments that we need to have replaced in our stock. So
Okay.
we're this close to being finished replacing all of our HVAC units, these Mitsubishi split systems that are in most all of our developments.
Thank you.
So We have a resolution 2021-38 that's been presented. And at this point in time, we can entertain any motions for this. This is a resolution authorizing the executive director to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Huntsville Utilities for partnership and participation in the Uplift program as presented.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Fountain moved, Commissioner Sullivan second. Before we call the question, anyone have any further questions or comments to make in regard to this resolution? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 2021-38, authorizing the executive director to enter into MOU with the Huntsville Utilities for the Uplift program, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. My next item is resolution number 2021-39, acting on a resolution authorizing executive director to enter into a contract to perform the Huntsville Housing Authority's independent audit. The Huntsville Housing Authority is required to have an independent audit. This process was completed through the RFP, request for proposal. We received 11 responses, and Clifton Larson Allen was the successful bidder. It is a mandatory process that must be completed. We had a committee of 5 that reviewed 11 proposals that we received, and an independent audit is required for the purpose of stating an opinion to whether the financial statements of the authority are fairly stated as a whole. This also included us requiring to get audit services for 360 properties along with Huntsville LP. These numbers that are provided for you as the economic impact will be for HHA with the March 31st fiscal year ending. It will be 45,000. We have 2 years in exercisable option that increases each year. Also for Huntsville Senior, their audit will be $11,000 for December 31st, also increasing for 2 years going forward, and for 360 property. The cost for Huntsville Senior properties and 360 properties are only provided to you for information only. So because those two entities have a separate board. So we're bringing this proposal to you to approve the RFP where Clifton Larson Allen was the successful deemed response and bidder for our services. Do you have any questions? Now I will say this, is that I learned in my class that audit services only have to be procured every 5 years. Ours are procured every 3 years because this was a resolution set by a board previously. So when we come to the end of this term, I will be bringing hopefully a proposal to you to amend that we only change auditors every 5 years instead of every 3. Do you have any questions about this process or any questions about this particular resolution?
Thanks, Tracy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, 5 years is, I think, fine, but you don't want the same auditor for 2 5-year periods, right?
Well, it's basically the RFP is awarded on who will receive the audit based on their proposal. And that's why it's independently scored by the 5 people. So I can't predict that who will or who will not get the audit.
Yeah, I just had some training as well and talking about risk management, risk aversion. And they were saying, you know, if you got an auditor for, in this case, the same auditor for 10 years, that doesn't look good. You know what I'm saying? It's better to try to mix it up. And you can mix it up every 5 years, I suppose, but that's something as we evaluate, we need to consider. You know, even if they come in as the lowest bid, the coaching I was getting from the HUD representative was make sure you what do they call it? It's where you don't want to get into showing favoritism, and they're so comfortable with you that, they're maybe overlooking some things, is what I guess what I'm saying. So
Well,
anyway,
Clifton Larson Allen definitely does not make us in the audit department feel comfortable. They do rotate out their staff every 2 to 3 years. We have not had the same audit team. So there is no comfortability here. I don't think they want to be comfortable because that is their position to audit us and to make sure that we are compliant with all of the HUD rules. So, we don't feel comfortable with this audit because it is a challenge every year to meet that standard. So,
yeah, and I'm not saying there's been any issues. I'm just saying that was,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, Bill? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I want to
I understand.
echo Jim's comments. I mean, I've been on boards where that's the same thing, where if it's been more than a decent period of time, they automatically convert over to a different auditor. I'm sure Teresa, you've experienced that before. I know we have to go through the RFP process, and so if we just stick to the RFP process, it's whoever's the most responsible bidder. But I think, we especially moving to an every 5 years, we just maybe want to give that some consideration, that if, having somebody with us for 10 plus years, even if they change auditors internally, it may behoove us to think about a different auditor just to ensure that, we kind of follow that. But okay.
Yes, sir. I understand.
So when will you
So
be
this is
presenting that? When will you be presenting that? When do you think you'll be presenting that? At the end of this 3-year audit period, you become?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, at the end of this 3 years. Yes, sir.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Any other questions?
So resolution. Okay.
All right. So it's been presented. It's resolution 2021-39, authorizing the executive director to enter into a contract to perform Huntsville Housing Authority's independent audit, and be willing to entertain any motions for this resolution at this time.
Yeah, I'll move that we approve resolution 2021-39 as presented.
All right, Commissioner Bolte moved.
Second.
And Commissioner Sullivan seconded. Again, before we call the question, any comments, questions, issues? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of resolution 2021-39, authorizing the executive director to enter into a contract to perform Huntsville Housing Authority's independent audit, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. My next item is to act on a resolution authorizing the executive director, CEO, contracting officer to demolish Butler Terrace Addition, AL 47-04, which is Butler Terrace Addition. On November 3rd, 2020, HHA was granted by the SAC of the U.S. Department of HUD to demolish Butler Terrace Addition that consists of 31 buildings and 134 dwelling units. The objective is to obtain approval to demolish the buildings and to write off fixed assets net of accumulated depreciation for Butler Terrace Addition. The approval given to Huntsville Housing Authority by SAC by the HUD Department grants HHA the approval to demolish the buildings. The city of Huntsville will cover the cost of the demolition that is estimated to be $515,000. The HHA will have a loss of $339,018 in fixed assets due to the disposition of property. Attached, you will find that I've included the Butler Terrace Addition fixed asset schedule, which tells you the amount that will be written off. Also, I included the letter HUD giving approval for the demolition, and also included was resolution 2020-38 passed in September of 2020 to apply to demolish these buildings. I will say that the land is not being written off, of course, because we still own that, but we will write off the rest of these assets. I will let you know that on the fixed asset schedule that the van and the Xerox machine will be transferred to another site. So we will transfer that to site 2 And those items will become part of the fixed assets for that particular site. Do you have any questions about this resolution 2021-40 for demolishing units and writing off assets?
Yeah, could you, I guess help me understand you said the city's doing the demolition? Is there?
Yes, sir, they are.
So are we doing something in exchange? We don't use it.
Well, we received the CNI grant, and that's our partnership with the city. But when we made our application for us to demolish the units, the city of Huntsville agreed that they would cover the cost for the demolition of those units. And that was stated in our letter, page 20, well, it's in our document, it's page 28, but it states there that the city will cover the cost of the demolition.
Okay. All right, that was all. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions?
What's the timeline you're thinking for this, for when this will start?
I will let Mike or Mr. McGinnis start with that, because this particular process to demo, we first have to work with the utility company, because site 2 and 4 sit there together, to make sure we do not cut off utilities for present tenants. So it's going to be a process. Of course, all of the tenants are out of those units, and we'll start with utilities cut off first, meeting with the city and Huntsville Utilities, and then Mr. McGinnis will notify the city at that time, or Mr. Norman, when we will begin to demolish those units. So it's a phase-in process for us to get there. Anybody want to speak to that?
Yeah, I want to, go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to add, I have started the dialogue process with Huntsville Utilities. I'm awaiting now on information from them on who all the players that we have to meet with at Huntsville Utilities. And once I have that information, then we'll set up an initial meeting with them to explain to them what we're going to be trying to accomplish. And then I'm sure we'll have to go into a schematic process to identify how and what way they can remove the utilities, being gas, water, and power, to the buildings that need to be demolished, and then retaining all those services for the rest of Butler Terrace proper. So it will be it's not a standalone like Sparkman Homes was. So there's a lot of other issues to approach and to solve at Butler Terrace Edition that we didn't have at Sparkman Homes. So it'll be a process, but it shouldn't take all that long to identify what our needs are. It's just going to be up to Huntsville Utilities on when they can get a plan together and actually start the process of removing those utilities.
And so I appreciate that. I'll say why I asked the question, and that may actually help with the answer. But for folks that aren't privy to the inside information here and about what's going on, they drive by and they just see a crane starting to tear down public housing, right? Then all kinds of discussions and things can be said. And so I just think from a board standpoint, if we kind of know generally when that crane is going to show up to start doing the demolition, it could help with us being prepared for any type of questions that might come our way. And then I think for the second thing is, Director McGinnis, maybe, just some guidance as to kind of like what is the statement that we're going to be kind of saying in terms of what's going on and what's happening in digestible terms, so that someone who doesn't know doesn't all of a sudden start getting out there talking about how this is Huntsville pushing out folks. I'm just trying to get ahead of the dialogue. Maybe I'm being too cautious, but I'd rather be too cautious than us not at least think of what the potential could happen and plan for it accordingly.
Yeah, that's, Tony, are you gonna say anything or? No? Okay, yeah, that's a good idea, Chairman. because we will likely get questions and certainly need to respond to the rest of the community, what's going on. So I do have, were you finished? I'm sorry.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Teresa, I understand everything except under furniture, fixture, and equipment. Looks like 3 vehicles, and you said one of the vans and a Xerox machine would be reused, but what about the other 2 vehicles? Well, why are we writing those off? Looks like a truck, half-ton truck, 15,550, a 2011 van that's 18 something, and then a transit van that's 27,000.
Those items are fully depreciated, and we will be selling those off in a auction. They have no, because they net to 0. So they have no book value at all. As you can see, the transit van and the Xerox, those particular items still have a useful life. But these other 3 items, these particular items are fully depreciated, and we will sell those away because they have no value. And they are sitting at the maintenance shop and have been replaced, and we have not been using those particular items.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. We have a motion or resolution that's been presented, I should say, for resolution 2021-39. I'm sorry, for -40 for approving the executive director to demolish Butler Terrace addition. I'll entertain any motions.
I don't, but before I guess motion,
Okay.
I don't think I heard a specific date, but in reference to, so I don't know if that would be Mike or Tony that will provide that, but I will say this, at a minimum, a week or 2 prior to the city, whenever this process is over, before they knock anything down, I think we need to know as a board. We don't plan on stopping the process, but the last thing I want to have to deal with is going out there and 3 of the buildings gone, and I got to listen to all the family members trying to explain why there was no notification of that. So we're not going to do the same thing we did with Sparkle Home. So I don't know how that can be relayed, but we need notification before they move bulldozers in. With that being
Yeah, and
said,
that would be on me. I'll make sure. We actually had a meeting with the mayor's office last week, and we informed them that all the residents were gone, and we're working with Huntsville Utilities to come up with a plan on how we can get the utilities and lights turned off. Now, I will say, based on what information that we received during that time, they have a couple of other demolition projects they're going to be working on. They would like to get this done by the end of the year, around December. They're not sure exactly what that time frame looks like, but I'll make sure that we can continue to communicate with them on giving us a time frame on when that will happen. We've tried to get that out of them at our last meeting, but they just didn't have a timeline on when they could get that done, just kind of based on some other demolition projects that they have going on. But we'll do all we can to make sure that we keep that communication in front of the board and everybody. And then to address what Dale was talking about, as far as working on a response, we're actually just trying to get that draft together now. I know one of the main concerns about Butler Terrace addition was the radon issue. And as we draft our response to the community, it's going to be basically centered around radon and the high upkeep of maintenance and not being able to maintain those units because they're so old. And, you know, we would try to come up with something that's more politically correct to say, But basically, we're doing that now, just working on that response.
All right. So at this point, be willing to entertain any motion for this resolution approving the executive director to demolish Butler Terrace addition.
Motion for approval.
Okay.
second.
Commissioner Fountain, second. All right, let's vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion to approve the executive director to be able to demolish Butler Terrace addition. This is resolution 2021-40. Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, unanimous vote in favor. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. My next item is the presentation of cumulative low-income housing finance report for the period ending August 31st, 2021. The first item to be discussed is total revenue. The increase in management fee is due to the authority having the ability to collect fees from Sparkman Homes at a rate of 75%. This was not included in the budget, but will be adjusted with the budget revision taking place. So there are management fees that COCC can earn on units that have been demolished for 3 years. And so we get them at a rate of 75%, 50%, and 25% of the ACC, the number of units that were standing at that time. So that is why we have an increase there. If we move forward to the second page of the financials, total tenant services, this item is under budget due to the resident services personnel grant being able to fund positions. So our Ross grants at this time for FSS and home ownership, we're able to charge to those grants resident services salary and benefits. And so that's the reason why those are lower at this time. Those grants will be expended. My estimate on FSS November moving forward, those amounts for those individuals will be coming to the operating budget once the salary line has been expended. Moving forward to also total protection services. As I've stated in the past, our protection went through July 29th, which really was not included in our budget, but that's the reason why that particular line item is over. If you move to the third page of the financials, overall, the collection loss is favorable. And that's due to the amount of monies that we have collected that offsets the bad debt expense that was written off that you approved last month. So overall, right now for year to date, we have net income of $1,037,876.54 compared to the prorated budget of $23,768.14. So those do you have any questions about the financials for August 31st, 2021? Okay, no questions. Now, my last presentation is what the information you had asked me for in the previous month about local minority-owned, Section 3, veteran-owned, and women-owned contractors as of August 31st, 2021. And at the top of the schedule, it's Coward Construction and State Systems. And Coward Construction did ceiling repairs. They have completed various site repairs and casualty unit repairs. Also for State Systems, they are the contractor that installed the combo smoke alarm and carbon monoxide that we had installed in the developments. Calhoun Yard and Lawn Maintenance, they were the contractor for Brookside. The minority contractor Forever Green that was approved in last board meeting resolution to cut for Northwoods at $12,000 a month, the possibility of paying out $144,000 on a one-year contract if they remain the vendor to address those properties. And at the bottom, I included the local contractor information for fiscal year 3/31/2021. What I wanted to know, do you want me to present these items to you on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis when it comes to local contractors and the different categories presented here? So just let me know what you would like to know, or if you have any additional finance items that I can address for you, I will bring those to you at that time.
Yeah, Teresa, thank you for putting this together. I think we all understand why we're asking for this information, because we have a desire to see that we have as much as possible within our guidelines of our dollars being spent with local and minority and women-owned and veteran-owned companies. And to have that be more than a desire, but us have actually to know how we're doing, it helps to have numbers. I don't see for myself personally that this being presented on a monthly basis is something that's required. It's just another administrative aspect of things. And unless we have a very specific plan to move that number and to be able to track it, it's just another administrative piece. What would be helpful, and for the next revision of this report that happens, is to understand this as a total percentage of our spend, understanding that it's probably very, very small. But it at least helps us just kind of understand where we are in this space. And I know our hands are tied a lot when it comes to RFPs and who responds and being able to take who's there. But at some point in time, particularly as we are moving the needle on trying to ensure more equitable economic opportunities for people in Huntsville, this might be some data that we can use to try to establish some intended goals or things that we may want to work on down the road. And I know this is not a high priority right now in terms of we've already got a strategic plan in place and lots of things to do. But I appreciate you putting these together. And I think this being provided on a yearly basis, frankly, is something that I think would be good, especially if we can just kind of add a little bit more detailed analysis to the percentage of spend in those areas, and maybe even something that is historical, right? So the current year and comparing maybe the previous 2 years would be good as well. That's my thoughts.
Okay, I can definitely do that. And those are all my items. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Teresa. We appreciate that report. And I just wanted to piggyback and circle back to what Dale was talking about with the minority-owned business. I've actually reached out to the local Black Chamber to see if they'd be willing to set up some workshops for some of the minority-owned businesses to give them information on how to apply and how to work with us. And they've agreed to do that. We're supposed to get back together within the week or so to figure out how that looks. That's something that I know that Jerry can do, and he's willing to do that, because I think in the past, what has happened is some of these local minority-owned businesses have been intimidated by our structure and what's in place. So he's going to set that up, and we're going to be reaching out to them to make sure that that gets done, because we really want to encourage not only minority but locally owned business to bid whenever we have something out there that's available. So we're definitely aware of the need to do that. And that's something that we're kind of really, although you said it probably wasn't priority, it is priority in trying to get local and minority owned businesses to do business with us. So we're working to put a plan together for that. I also wanted to talk about the Office of Resident Affairs. I know the last time we met, we actually met with the AHAC committee about the Office of Resident Concerns, and they encouraged us to change that last word from concern to something else. So we came up with the Office of Resident Affairs, and what we've already been able to do is we've got a local phone number or email address. We're going to launch this on November the 1st. We got everything in place. We actually have a way to track our calls, follow up on calls that we get into that center so that we can really focus on that turnaround time. Because what I'm finding out is that oftentimes if a resident is heard from within a short window, it eliminates them calling local news and complaining on Facebook and doing a lot of the things that they do. And so we want to be intentional in making sure that we not only respond, but we have a solution. And I think the Office of Resident Affairs is going to give us an opportunity to make sure that we're addressing our residents' needs so that they can really understand that we're in partnership with them to help them make sure that their living is the best it could possibly be while they're staying with the Huntsville Housing Authority. So I'm excited about that. And like I said, we're going to launch that November the 1st. I also want to talk about the Housing Solution Workshop. Huntsville was selected as one of the 4 cities size 50 to 500,000 to participate in a housing solution workshop sponsored by NYU Furman Center and the Housing Solution Lab and the Lincoln Institute of Land and Policy. It was a very competitive grant. We're partnering with the city of Huntsville. I'm actually one of the delegates to participate in this workshop intended for cities and counties that are in the early stage of developing a comprehensive and balanced local housing strategy. And of course, with what we're going through in Huntsville, we definitely need to be a part of this because, you know, affordable housing is limited in our area, and we want to work to kind of be at the table to figure out what kind of strategies we can come up with to make sure that our residents have a seat at the table. And, you know, we can put some of our local dollars to use and get some of our families who are on the street right now looking for housing through our Section 8 program. We can get them into a home and just really be at the table to talk about solutions for what is taking place here in Huntsville. We actually had a conversation with the mayor, and you know, he understands our need to talk about this as well. And it's really a need that not only the housing authority needs to talk about, but we need to make sure that we have other partners who are really out there talking about the need for affordable housing. And so we are, with our emergency housing vouchers, the coalition of people who are at that table, we're really pushing them to talk about the need to get more affordable housing units out there. And it really looks good when it's not just the housing authority pushing that narrative, but other partners who are coming in to talk about that. So we're excited about what's taking place. I think we're at a point where we can't no longer talk about it. We have to talk about it, and we have to put some strategies in place so that we can make sure that as Huntsville grows, we continue to have a place for our residents to grow as well. Our town hall meetings have gone really well. The first one at Northwoods, the mayor actually came out and spoke to the residents at Northwood about plans for the city. They were excited to see him come out to an event. He wants to also come out to the one at Johnson Towers because we have some residents who've been writing and emailing him about some situations over at Johnson Towers. So he's probably going to come out to that meeting as well. We have one over in Butler Terrace that was really not that well attended, but I think that was a scheduling issue. So we're going to have to redo the one in Butler Terrace because we got a lot of important information that need to get out to the residents at Butler Terrace. So we're going to have to redo that one. We're planning for one at 5 o'clock on Thursday at the Boys and Girls Club in Lincoln, the James A. Lane Boys and Girls Club. And what these town hall meetings are intended to do is to let our residents know what services are available in their community, who we are. I don't think I've really had an opportunity to introduce myself or our team to the residents because of COVID. So this allows me the opportunity to meet our residents up close and personal. And it gives us an opportunity to share programs and also listen to some of the concerns that they may have as we move forward. The last 2 things I wanted to talk about is I've really enjoyed the opportunity to meet with you all on a one-on-one individual basis. I've gotten some really good feedback, and it really has encouraged me to move forward with some of the plans that I have and kind of put some dates to some things. And I'm looking forward to making sure that every one of our communities have some form of an Envision Center, some place where they can walk to provide, well, where they can walk to services that are available in their community. Because if we're really going to help our residents achieve a level of self-sufficiency and change some of the generational poverty that has been going on for a while, we're going to have to make sure that they have the tools that they need in order for them to get up and out. And so I've met with the Boys and Girls Club. I met with the group out at Cersei Homes, and we're going to be partnering together to make sure that every community that we serve has a place where they can go and receive services that will help them and their families achieve a certain level of self-sufficiency, if that's what they're choosing to do. Many of these programs are already in the community. They're just not communicating to each other like they need to. So we're going to facilitate some conversations where people can come together, find out what those services are that are already in the community, find a way to make sure that we get those services out to the residents, because sometimes the residents don't even know what's in their community. So we're going to do a better job of making sure that everybody's aware of the services that are out in their community, and make sure that they're obtainable, they're accessible to the residents. And then last but not least, we're looking to start a Housing Authority Leadership Academy within the next 60 days. We have a lot of great leaders within this organization. A lot of times they work in the back, you don't get a chance to see them. They don't come to the board meetings, and I think that we do them injustice by not allowing them to present, allowing them to be at this table. And so we're going to be looking to make sure those leaders who are within the organization, that you all don't get a chance to see as often, they have an opportunity to be seen and heard, and we get some of their ideas and what they have to add to this organization. We want to make sure that we put those actions to play. And with that, I think that's all I have. And I appreciate you all being here today.
All right, Mr. McGinnis, appreciate that. I definitely think having those services local to those locations will help us get people up and out, which is what I think we're trying to do here. Any other, what I'll do at this point in time is see if we have any comments from any of the other commissioners. Mr. Andrew, I assume we don't have any public comments or anyone's posted for a couple of public comments? No? Okay.
We do not, no.
Okay, so let's see if we can get feedback from the commissioners here. If you don't mind, I'll start with Commissioner Sullivan.
I don't have anything. I do like the piece that you wrapped up with, Tony, in regards to an Vision Center at all of the sites, because they got, as we said before, we're a high performing agency, but to ensure that the residents will be able to say the same thing, they should feel or know the resources that's provided to them as individuals. So thank you all for doing what you do. That's all I have, Dr. Smith.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Fountain?
No, I don't have anything to add today. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Bolte?
Yes, thank you, sir. Tony, you mentioned self-sufficiency, and I know we've got a program, right? There's like a program, but I don't know the kind of where we stand on that. I don't know if we get regular updates on it, quarterly or whatever, or just when something happens, maybe we get updated on it. But if there was some way to kind of report on that more frequently, because that is what we're trying to do, is get people through, get on their feet, become self-reliant, that kind of thing. So, and it's one of our big strategic plan targets. So I would think about how to best do that. I don't know. The town hall meetings, maybe you've done this, but if you could send like the schedule for those. And it sounds like you're rescheduling one or two, and there's one this Thursday that I can't go to, but I'd like to attend at least one. So if you could send those out and maybe even recommend one to go to. I did hear Neil on the radio today for the first time. I think it was 96 point something. And it sounded really good. I know some of you all have already heard it, but it I was impressed with the content and the delivery person. So good job on that. There are so many jobs in the community right now. People are paying bonuses just to get people. It's like just do a telephone interview and we'll hire you. I know Toyota is, and other, Mazda Toyota's got to hire another couple of thousand people. So my question is, are there residents that have transportation and they could work at some kind of a job like that? I mean, are we not getting in front of them, or is it just maybe, it's a single mom with 3 kids and she doesn't have a car and she can't go anyway? I understand that, but there could be, I'm thinking, some very capable people that want a job. They've got a car. They can do that work. Is it? I don't know what I'm asking, but I want to make sure that they get the opportunity, because there's just so many jobs and companies are paying signing bonuses just to get people. So now's a great time to try to get jobs for our residents. Anyway, that's all I have, sir. Thank you all very much. I appreciate the presentations.
And I wanted to really quickly address the job situation, because being that I've actually worked in workforce development here, and there's just a few steps. And I think partnering with the right organizations and making sure that we cover those steps, because with our residents, they're just some additional training that have to take place. And what we have to do is provide those soft skills to our residents so that they will not only be able to go and get the job, to maintain the job. And I think with us working with our residents and creating these centers, that's going to be one of those areas that we focus on, is make sure we do that soft skills training and making sure they understand what that looks like to go into an organization and go into a company, not only to just work, but to be able to keep that job. Because it's, for a lot of these individuals who are hiring, these are life-changing jobs. These are jobs that are really taking people to a whole nother level. And we've actually gone out and spoken to managers, people who are hiring. We've been on the phone with several of them. And the one thing we want to make sure that we do is get it right, so that we send the right people out there. And I know sometimes, you don't really know who that person is. So we've been really focusing on doing a lot of those soft skills training and helping residents understand this is a game changer. You can't mess it up, because you might mess it up for the next person behind you. So we got I won't say a long way to go, but I think we've made some leeway, not only us, but other organizations that are out there doing workforce development. So I think it's just going to continue to take a collaborative effort from everybody out in the community, making sure that they get those soft skills in front of people so that they can go and apply for those jobs and keep them, because that's most important, making sure they keep them.
No, the most important thing is get the job. You know what I mean?
Well,
but your point's very valid, and I just don't want us to be the gateway that's keeping them from passing through, because I mean, those jobs aren't going to be there forever. I mean, they've got they got schedules, they got to fill those jobs, and they're going to fill them with somebody. So I just want to make sure that we get those jobs in front of those people, and if they need some additional coaching or whatever on how to do interviews and persevere long term, I mean, that's fine. But I don't know, I just feel this burden that if we don't strike while the iron is hot, I think we might miss something. So, but anyway, thanks, Tony. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for that discussion. I think it's important. I don't have anything to relay or any comments other than what I've already presented. So If that's the case, I think we've gotten to the end of our board meeting. Appreciate all the work that everybody's doing, making progress on things. And thank you, Mr. Andrew, for getting this coordinated virtually again. I think our thought process is that we want to maintain this virtual setting again next month. But I know we talked about kind of wanting to look at how the cases were and how comfortable we felt. And so just make note that next month will also be virtual, and then we'll make some decisions if we will move back to a face-to-face at some point in time soon. But this is actually working out pretty well from an efficiency standpoint, I know as well too. But all right, unless there's anything else, we're going to call this meeting adjourned. Everybody be safe and have a good rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.